Hi there, book lovers! When will I get it? Like at the first take? Never, probably. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Hi there, book lovers! My name is Christina and welcome back to Cozy Novel Niche. Today I'm here with part 2 of my birthday book haul, and it took me a while because I waited for all of the books to finally arrive. As I told you in part 1, I went like overboard with the books because this was the first time that I allowed myself to buy so many books after a long book buying ban, so I went wild out there. So you will see a lot of books, and I will start with the ones that I were waiting, that were bought by me, like new, freshly new books, not out of print, but you get it, just new books that I bought for myself. And we have a bunch of fantasies here, unsurprisingly. The first one that I got is Half a Soul. This one is the first one in a trilogy, I believe, or a series of companion novels, I don't know yet. But the thing that really got me is that it's a mix of Regency era with fairy magic. And I don't know you, but I love fantasy, but I also love everything historical and like historically set. I think that it's really amazing. So something that's Regency plus fantasy is not that usual for me, and I really wanted to give it a chance. This is the story of Dora, who is a girl who's cursed from her childhood, I believe, by a fairy, and her curse is that she only has half a soul. This means that she feels less, she expresses less emotion, she's less startled, less fearful, less any emotion that you can guess, and she has to face Regency society and the marriage kind of, it's not the marriage market, it's called like the marriage scene. Yeah, that's the word. I'm sorry. So this is a book that I definitely can't wait to read. It's quite short. I mean, it's only like 270 pages, but I've heard great reviews. So for something easy breezy and fun, this can be a great read, I hope. So I will give it a go. Then the next two are both children's, like middle grade children's book, but they are fantasy and lovely, and I can't wait to read them sooner or later. The first one is by Ash, Oak and Thorn. I don't know if you can see, okay, like that you can see the title. And this is a lovely kind of cottagecore fantasy, let's call it like that, about 3 friends that wake up after the long like winter slumber, I believe, only to discover that one of the friends is starting to vanish. So they need to go on an adventure and find out what happens. So this seems great and fun and lovely, and I mean, just only the cover, it's so cottagecore. I don't know, it's just lovely and seems absolutely perfect for spring or summer. Then the next one is again middle grade children's, probably more children's book, but this one is a little bit like more grim and dark. Grim probably is not the right word here, but right word here. Just look at the cover, you get the vibes. And this book is about a young girl who discovers that her parents are having troubles, like they're getting a divorce or they're near to it or they're discussing it. So she's being sent to her grandparents' house, and she doesn't really know her grandparents, I believe, or she doesn't want to go there, but something like that. And apparently this book mixes reality and fantasy, as in the girl starts to imagine that the forest surrounding the house is a magical forest, but some things that she's imagining are kind of manifesting, or she thinks that they're manifesting, I don't know. But the whole idea of the imagination being used as a form of escapism to escape from a harsh reality, I think that it's very realistic for a young person, for a young girl in this case. So I would love to see how it goes. Plus, I don't know, I think that it's quite fit for summer/autumn, in my opinion. I don't know why it gives me that vibes, probably because of the cover. So maybe I will see it sooner than later. Next, again I went overboard and I bought the full trilogy, and this I can completely blame on BookTube. I've seen this series so much around BookTube and Instagram and wherever, and it's the first trilogy by Robin Hobb, the Farseer trilogy, and the first one is the Assassins Apprentice, and I got the whole trilogy. So this one is like one of the most known and well-beloved fantasy stories out there. It was published in the 1990s, something like that, I believe. And this is a classical fantasy story. We have our main protagonist, who is the bastard son of a prince, and this creates a huge mayhem. So he ends up being like brought up like an assassin in order to be useful for the kingdom. And I guess that it's only the start, and then things gonna happen because it's a long series. There are other trilogies, and I know that Robin Hobb is such a well-beloved author, and I've not read anything by her yet, and this is a huge mistake and miss on my part, so I will try and redeem myself. Again, I hope sooner than later, but I really wanted to buy it, even just to know that I have it and I may read it in the future as soon as I will want to, because everybody loves it. So I just really want to make an opinion for myself and see how it will go. And now let's get to the second part of the video, where I will show you all of the second-hand books that I bought. These are almost all coming from Vinted, and I buy so many used books on Vinted. It's such a great deal, and I think that it's lovely to give a second life to a book, and at the same time not to buy new books, being a little bit more respectful towards the environment this way. So when I put a book on my wish list, I always go through like all the titles that I have there and see if I can find something on Vinted or on Depop or another sites like that, just to see if there is a second-hand book that I may buy. And usually I often am lucky, so that's an idea for you. But let's get into it. The first thing that I want to show you is a complete series of 5 volumes of a manga, and this is L'Iselot e la Foresta delle Streghe, or The Forest of the Witches. I don't know if it's been translated like that in English, but it's by Natsuki Takaya, and Natsuki Takaya is the writer behind the Fruits Basket series. So the manga, and then there was an old anime, and there is a new anime that was released, I believe, like 1 or 2 years ago probably. I've not watched the newest version, but the old one I watched, and the manga I read, I own, I reread it periodically because I really like it. And so that's another one. This one is a fantasy, apparently about, I believe, Liselot, who is this young girl who has lost everything, which is quite a recurring theme for Natsuki Takaya. And yeah, I think that I will love it because it's quite short and it's a fantasy, so I'm very curious to see where it will go, and this is something that I will shortly read because this is manga, and manga I may flew like through it with no effort whatsoever, completely opposite to my relationship with series of books, because those I cannot finish apparently for the life of me. And moving on, I have here one more second-hand book that I bought, and this one I was very surprised by the size of it, because that's the size of it. I wasn't expecting it for whatever reason, and it's Storia d'inverno by Mark Halperin, or Winter's Tale, I believe, in English. Yeah, it's Winter's Tale, and it was published in 1983, so this one has been around for a long time. There is actually a movie that was made from this book, and it was like in 2014, I believe, with Russell Crowe. And this is a sort of magical realism, I believe, not exactly fantasy. I'm not sure. I've not watched the movie because I always wanted to read the book first. And this is the story of a thief. It is set in Manhattan at the beginning of the century, and he accidentally ends up in this very rich people apartment where he meets the daughter of the owners of the apartment, I believe, and he ends up falling in love. and it's an adventure. I mean, it's huge, so a lot of things are supposed to happen here, and being called Winter's Tale, I think that I will read it in winter. This will be a lovely read. I love reading like chankers in winter. There's something comforting in holding a chunky book that's also floppy. So yeah, this will end up on my winter TBR probably. Next one is a fantasy, kinda a unique fantasy, and it's not very hyped around BookTube, but I've seen it here and there, and the people who read it actually loved it, so I was intrigued. And it's The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep by H.G. Perry. And apparently this is a fantasy about two brothers, and one of them has the unique ability to bring to life characters from books. And I mean, what else can I possibly want from a fantasy book? So this will for sure be an amazing read. I mean, if it's done correctly and if it has all of the right elements and if it's not too overdone, then this possibly can become a favorite for me. So fingers crossed, in the future when I will read it, I will love it. Next one is a second volume in a trilogy. I own the first one. I've not read it, but I'm so sure that I will love it that I ended up buying the second volume. Yeah, I have reader's problems. I mean, yeah, I'm that kind of a reader, but I trust that I will love it, and it's Red Seas Under Red Skies. This is the second one in the Gentleman's Bastard series, I believe it's called, or Loch Lamora, the first volume. And this is a fantasy with a group of thieves and rogues as like main protagonists, and I don't know much else. I mean, this is all I know. But I'm so, for whatever reason, sure that I will love the first one that I got myself the second one. Plus, it was kind of a bargain. It didn't cost that much. It's a used edition in kind of perfect conditions. So now I own the second one, which means that I just have to read and love the first one because now I own the second. So yeah. And then going on, the next one is an instance of the fingerpass by Ian Pierce, I believe. And this one, I have to admit, I've never heard anything about this book, but the cover somehow screamed like dark academia to me, and that was enough to sell me, like to sell it to me. And I don't know if you can see, there are some words that are printed through the page, and it's lust, betrayal, and secrets, and murder. So, I mean, what else do I have to know about this? I can read behind, but I don't want to. I want to go in it like as blind as I can, because I hope that I will enjoy it. And this is a book that makes me think about like deep autumn, maybe November, something like that, for no reason except for the cover, because again, I know nothing about this book, but this is the vibes that it's giving me. So this probably will appear in a fall TBR sooner or later. Then I have only the first book, but I bought the whole trilogy again. Why? Because of BookTube, because of all of the reviews that I've seen around, and it's the trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. It's the Blade itself. Now I own the whole trilogy. I just have the other two books like on a shelf, and I didn't want to go back and take them. But this is a very famous trilogy and a well-beloved one too. I know that it's kind of grim fantasy and a little bit more explicit and a little bit more dark than others out there. And it's about Logan Ninefingers, who is a barbarian, and we're following his adventures plus those of the people around him, so it's a whole crew, I believe. And I'm very curious to read it. I got it from this lovely girl that ended up being Insta talker, yes, who ended up being a bookstagrammer, and she sent me the loveliest package with such care and love and just little details here and there, and she kept these books in pristine condition, so now I have the whole trilogy that is also linked to this lovely memory, and so I will for sure read it sooner or later because a lot of people that I know rave about it, and I think that I should give it a try. Next one is something that is completely outside my comfort zone. I'm not used to like reading these kind of books, but it was again a bargain. It costed so little, and I was already buying another book from this girl on Vinted, so that I decided to just throw this book in and give it a chance. And I heard some things about this book with a different cover from this one. This is an edition that I wasn't familiar with, but it's the same book just with a different cover, and it's the Ecowife by Sarah Gailey. Again, I know almost nothing about it, except that in the back it says, and no spoilers, it's just the general description of the book. The Ecowife is a propulsive new novel from an international rising star about identity, murder, and the choices society forces women to make. And this edition is kind of big, but also short, with quite a big font, so this is a great candidate for coming with me on vacation, because again, floppy, quite light, and seems like a thriller or something like that, so it's just great to hook your attention and to flew through it possibly. So maybe I will take this one with me. And the last two books that I have here I got from a flea market. I had no time to take off the sticker yet, that's so annoying, and I hope that it will come off without any problem. And the first of the books is a book by Barack Obama, in Italian actually, but in English the title was Dreams from My Father, A Story of Race and Inheritance, and apparently it talks about the first 30 years of his life and probably about his family and discussing themes of race. So I just saw it, it was for €3.33, so I just wanted to read it sooner or later, even because I have his latest book, The Promised Land, I believe, on my wish list, so why not to start with something that was previously published and then make my way through and read the next one. And then the last one is something unexpected. I was at this small flea market here in Italy, in a small town, and I wasn't expecting to see there an English book, but here it was. And it's a mass paperback, like a chunker, and it's Dublin by Edward Rutherford. The epic bestseller by Edward Rutherford, and I know that he's an author that often publishes books about countries or cities, and I already own a book by him on China, I believe, but I've never yet read it, even if it's there. Sooner or later I will get to it. This book is like 800 pages long, which is quite a lot, but it was a bargain again. It was again €3, and so I just wanted to get it. I was so surprised to see something in English that I just had to have it. And it says back, Edward Rutherford's great Irish epic reveals the story of the people of Ireland through the focal point of the island's capital city. And I love Ireland. I've been there, I fell in love, and to have something that goes a little bit more in depth of its history, I believe, will be a nice read. So this is it. I've done it. I showed you all of the books. I'm sorry if it was so long. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books and you have opinions on them, or if you're planning to read any of them. And this is it. I promise you, you will not see another haul too soon, except for those that will come if I will find something very interesting during my summer trips. I'm planning 2 trips, one in Greece and one going back home in Latvia. So maybe I will buy something there. But as far as my birthday and my overboard amount of books that I decided to gift myself, yeah, we're done. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. And if you want to keep up with my next videos, please consider like pushing the bell button down there, because that way you will be notified by YouTube when I publish my next video, upload my next video. Thank you so much, and I will see you very, very soon in my next video. Bye! Ciao!